Hi, Dirt Road Believers. This is Tina, creator of Dirt Road Believer. Thank you for being with me today for a time of devotion in God's Word. I'm really looking forward to it. I didn't plan on a series, but we have sort of gotten into this series on trusting God in different facets of our life. So today we're going to be talking about trusting God with what ifs. We all have these. We try to imagine this scenario and that scenario. Well, what if it plays out this way? Well, what if it happens this way? How are we going to do it? How are we going to solve it? How are we going to live through it? Well, today is all about that and how we're going to trust God in the what ifs and how we can change what ifs from a negative standpoint to a positive. So hang in there with me today. I think you're going to be blessed by today's devotion. We will be in Psalm chapter 16. Now today is July the 28th. I am filming this on a day where I'm on summer vacation. I'm a teacher. And this summer has been so nice and beautiful. How great to come out on a morning at 8:30, enjoy the birds and the little bit of breeze that I have and the trees, and that is no more. Okay, as of today, I am actually, as of yesterday, the 27th, I am back on the job. So all of you who have been working through the summer, I'm with you now. Okay, I'm back to work. Well, it has been a glorious summer. I have enjoyed it, but we know it all comes to an end at some point, right? So when I go back to school, I know something that I'm going to face because I face it every single year. It is children and their what ifs. Let me explain a little bit. Okay, first of all, when I was a student, there were two drills, okay? You had the fire drill and you had the severe weather drill. I think my 4th and 5th grade year, we should have added a third drill called the heat stroke drill, okay? I went to 4th and 5th grade in a building that in South Georgia that had no air. Do you hear me? No air, no heat either. We had these windows that you could kind of crank out a little bit there was no breeze. Let's don't fool ourselves. But you talk about hot all day, every day. You talk about gnats just swarming your face while you're trying to learn. It was not optimal conditions, okay? I'm reading a book right now called The Comfort Crisis, saying we don't experience enough discomfort. I think I experienced enough discomfort in my 4th and 5th grade school year to last me quite a while. So I'm happy that we're in an air conditioning building. Anyway, to get back to my what if story. When I get there to school, there's the first day I have kids, we have to go through the drills. Well, the drills have expounded. Okay, now we have, of course, fire, severe weather, lockdown teach, they don't call it bomb threat, but the evacuation. They're like 6 or 7 different drills. And then we have systems in place where the red light means this, the green light means that, and you wear something around your neck where you push a button if you have an emergency. It's all good because, schools have been through things that we're just taking the utmost precaution, right? But it bothers children. When you start talking about going into a closet and turning the lights off and not saying a word, that can get kids a little rattled, some more than others, right? And then begin the what ifs. Well, Miss Lee, what if we have an evacuation drill and we go out and then there's a tornado? Well, what if someone gets in the building and they're dangerous? What if? And the what ifs, and if you answer one, you'll have to answer 225. So I've learned to just say, guys, if we begin to ask what if, we'll never stop asking what if, because anything could happen and we can't really plan for everything. You're just going to have to trust that Miss Lee is going to do her very best to keep you safe and that everything's going to be okay. Now, And they still ask, what if? Well, what if this? What if that? They get so nervous, okay? So many drills. Do you hear yourself in this anywhere? Are you a what-iffer? Are you a, well, what if this happens in my life? And what if that? And I'm telling you, these what-ifs can get out of control really fast. I have taken myself through this exercise, not in a panic, but honestly asking the Lord, what if the worst happens, God? What if I lose a child? What if my home burns? What if someone breaks in my home and harms my family? What if our country goes to war? What if, but I've done this with the purpose of, God, no matter what happens, you are in it. You are there with me. You are going to get me through it. But when our what ifs are not brought before the Lord like that, and they just begin to spin out of control like my elementary students do, it can be a very harmful and scary place to live. And it can also do a lot of damage to you, to your faith, to your psyche. And so I want to take you to Psalm 16 today, because we're talking about trusting God with the what ifs, okay? We're going to have what if thoughts, okay? We just are. But what are we doing with those thoughts? Are we allowing them to just, spin out of control, and one what if leads to another, until we're in a dark place? Or are we bringing them before the Lord and confessing, God, no matter what happens, you have my future. You're not going to leave me or forsake me. You promised that. You're going to give me what I need for that day to get through it. So let's look at Psalm chapter 16, and I'm going to start in verse 4, because I look at the panicky what ifs as sorrows in a person's life. It's anxiety. It brings on a disturbance in your spirit. So it's a sorrow. So this verse starts, the sorrows of those who take another god for themselves will multiply. Think about that. When your what ifs are beginning to really control your life, and you're worried about what if this, what if that, what am I going to do if this happens, then that is a god in your life, not big G, little g, okay? Listen to that again. The sorrows of those who take another god for themselves will multiply. And isn't that exactly what happens with our what ifs? They become a god in our life, and they cause us sorrow, and they begin to just multiply. It goes on to say, I will not pour out their drink offerings of blood, and I will not speak their names with my lips. In trusting God, there are a couple of things I want us to remember. Number one, He gives us what we need when we need it. We can't hoard up or store up an abundance of goodness or mercy or grace. It doesn't work that way. Think back to the Israelites and the manna from heaven, right? He's like, I'm going to give you what you need every day. Don't store it up. It'll only go bad. It'll only spoil. Just take what you need, and then there'll be more tomorrow. God's mercy and God's grace, provision, love, they're like that. They are there in the moment that we need them. So no matter what happens, it's going to be there right when we need it. And we can trust God with that, okay? We don't have to get panicky ahead of time. We don't have to wonder, how am I going to manage that? How will I ever? First of all, what ifs may never happen, right? But if they do, we can trust that God is going to give us what we need right exactly when we need it. The other thing I want you to remember about trusting God in the what ifs is He holds our future. Do you believe that? Do you believe that God holds your future, that He wants good for you, that He's not sitting around thinking, oh, well, what if I did this to her? What if I pulled this on him? We don't serve a God like that, okay? So as I talked about those 2 points, trusting God that He's going to give you what you need when you need it, and trusting God that He holds your future. Now I want to continue in Psalm 16. I'm going to start in verse 5 now. Lord, you are my portion and my cup of blessing. You hold my future. The boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places indeed. I have a beautiful inheritance. I will bless the Lord who counsels me. Even at night when my thoughts trouble me, I always let the Lord guide me. Because he is at my right hand, I will not be shaken. Therefore my heart is glad and my whole being rejoices. My body also rests securely, for you will not abandon me to Sheol. You will not allow your faithful one to see decay. You reveal the path of life to me. In your presence is abundant joy. At your right hand are eternal pleasures. So now, let's take this negative, what if this, what if that, oh no, and let's turn what if into something so beautiful and so faith-filled that this is something you can do every single day. What if the Lord were your only source? What if the Lord were your portion and your cup of blessing every day? And what if you got to experience joy every day in the Lord? What if you were very quick to forgive? What if every day you woke up and said, God, I trust you because I know no matter what happens today, you're going to give me exactly what I need, because that's how the gift of grace works. And I thank you for that. What if you connected with friends every day? What if you looked for opportunities during your day to do something good for someone and you took that opportunity? What if you allowed yourself to be happy and have a glad heart? What if you lived in abundant joy every day? God holds your future, and when you know that, and when your what ifs become hopeful what ifs in the Lord, it changes your entire outlook, it changes your countenance, it changes your relationship to Christ, because you're not coming before him grumbling about the maybe. You're coming before him with gratitude and thanksgiving and saying, God, I trust you. I want to invite you to do some self-examination here with the what ifs. Have your what ifs been negative and prevailing and caused you sorrow? If that's the case, then Psalms tells us that's become a God in your life. It's become another God that you've kind of claimed for yourself. And they will continue to multiply, is what the scripture says. So reframe those what ifs. Reframe those what ifs to be verses 5 through 11. God, you reveal the path of life to me. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to stress about it and wonder what it's going to be like. You reveal the path of life to me, and in your presence is abundant joy. Claim that for yourself today and flip those what ifs, and you will just get to experience so much joy and happiness. I've been not reading a book, but listening to a podcast of an author who wrote a book. Does that count? I don't think so. But it is 5 Regrets of the Dying. She spent a lot of years caring for people who were dying. And she talks about the 5 regrets. But one of those regrets is they get to the end of their life and they say, I wish I'd been happier. You know, perhaps they look back and say, gosh, there wasn't as much to be worried about as I worried about. I think a lot of us do that. We look back and say, why were we so worried? And so does God want you to be happy? Does he want you to experience joy abundantly? Absolutely. His word just confirms and restates that over and over. And so that's my prayer for all of my Dirt Road believers this week, is that you are going to experience joy in a way you haven't experienced before. And the deepest, most abundant joy we will ever experience is in the Lord. Let go of your negative what ifs. Claim some wonderful, godly what ifs. Guys, have a wonderful day. It was so nice to be with you today, and I hope you're enjoying this series on trust. Please share it out with someone who needs to hear it, and I hope you have an amazing day. I'm going to see you next week. Until then, slow down. Take the dirt road, believer.